Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the South Carolina Gamecocks Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 25, and we've reached our bye week, our first one of the season, so I thought today would be a good time to look at recruiting, to take an in-depth look at these prospects that we are targeting for our upcoming recruiting class and potential future Gamecocks. I know a lot of you guys have asked about recruiting and you want to see the recruits. Well, today you're going to get your wish. We're going to go through all 30 plus of the guys that we're targeting, go in depth, as well as look at some of the top guys of the country. And you can tell by the title of the video, we have got our first recruit. So we will look at him today as well. So if you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. I want to make this deep. So you're going to see some footage, you're going to see some battles going on, and let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this episode, any tweaks that can be made, anything that you liked, anything you didn't like, because like I've said before, this is my first time doing a college series, so all this is in the air. But let's take a look at recruiting. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is say we have gotten a commit. He is the first commit of the class, athlete Telvin Byler from Darlington, South Carolina. Darlington High School is the recruit, the first one here in the series. And you can take a look at some of the highlights. He is an athlete, but he primarily plays quarterback, and he's been tearing it up at Darlington High School this season. He's a 3-star recruit. Also played a little bit of receiver, considering he is an athlete, but he will primarily stick at quarterback. He picked us. He only got 2 offers. It was us or Appalachian State, and it didn't take him long to want to stay in state. And I feel like that's going to be the big thing for us, especially in this first season. I wanted to really target the recruits in state. I didn't want anybody to leave because it's hard enough recruiting against Georgia below us, Florida in the SEC, North Carolina and Mac Brown above us. Don't sleep on them. And then obviously Clemson in state, so which they have a lot more of a national presence than we do. So I really wanted to keep the hometown guys close, and that's what we've done with Telvin Byler. Here's his ratings. He is fast. 92 speed, 91 throw power, 82 short accuracy. I'm very excited to see what he can do. Obviously, we have Lenore Sellers at quarterback, and he's a redshirt freshman, so don't have to rush Byler, but I mean, if you can get a gem like he is in this class, I think that's a pretty good start. So welcome to the Gamecocks next year, Telvin Byler. So with him out the way, we'll go through all of our recruits. I have them organized 5, 4, 3 stars. We're not going after any 2s. And there are 3 5-stars we're going after, and we are in the hunt for all of them. The top guy on my board right now is Jason Yeast, a free safety from Opelika, Florida, attending South Miami High School. And we are currently in the lead for this guy. He is the best at his position, number 21 ranked in the country. And, well, you know, we've got out on front. It's between us, Florida, and Georgia. That's how a lot of these big battles in the Southeast are going to go. If you want to look at his scouting, here it is. 94 speed, 72 zone, 78 man. He could play in the slot if need be. He is a guy who could be a game changer right out of the gate, especially if you want to land a 5-star recruit. And he's currently got a visit in week number 9, and he's the only one so far with that visit. So hopefully we can continue this lead. I'm going basically all in on all of these 5-star recruits because we could really land one of those. The other 5-star recruit we're going after, Kiki Zambrano from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. He's currently actually attending the IMG Academy. He is the second best defensive tackle in this class, and this one's a little bit more of a dogfight. He's got 4 offers on the table, us, Florida, Georgia Tech, and Auburn, and we are currently in second place. 6'4", 287. He's more of a speed rusher, but look at that, 88 finesse right out of high school. Do you know what we could do with that? We saw in the Akron game our pass rush was a little bit lackluster, and a guy who has 88 finesse, 91 strength to go along with that, that is a guy that could be a game changer. Now, we don't know his speed. He is a defensive tackle. He's a little bit smaller. I think he may be more of an edge kind of guy, maybe more of an end in a 3-3-5 scheme like we do. But Kiki Zambrano, we're still going to fight. You can see we actually did drop, so we were in first, but now it seems like he's leaning towards the Florida Gators. Might have to get him in for a visit. The last 5-star we're going after is also a defensive tackle, Derek Moffitt from Dr. Perry L. Julian High School in Montgomery, Alabama. He is the third best defensive tackle in this class, and he is also a speed rusher, 6'2", 297, and we're in first place for him. He's got 5 scholarships on the table, and it looks like he wants to play in the SEC, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn. He's got a visit to Florida in Week 8. They're trying to beat us for him, but he's another guy, almost the same identical skill set. 87 finesse, 91 strength. I mean, we do know his speed, though. 79 speed, which isn't bad, I would say. But if we can land one of those defensive tackles, we'd be in good shape. I'd love to get a 5-star recruit, and we have a chance to get multiple between the 3 that are on the table, and that would be quite the accomplishment for Coach Rob in his first season. Now we get into the 4 stars. We got a lot more 4 stars on the table. The first one I like is Sonny Gallen, a strong safety from South Point High School in Belmont, North Carolina. He's the second best strong safety, and we're currently in the lead for him as well. All these top guys I am going pretty heavy in to split up our points because we're fortunate enough to be a pretty big school. So we got that 800-hour budget to maneuver around. Now we're competing with Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Georgia. Clemson is there if they want to give him a scholarship. I'm not sure why they haven't already, but you could also see the green gem because he is a gem 4-star, 92 speed, 70 zone, 78 man. He's got a lot of the same skill set that 5-star Yeast has. So if we could get him and Yeast, that would be almost your safety of the future. Now we do have a pretty good strong safety between Kilgore and Eamon War. He's gotten a couple of picks this season, but we like to add some depth there. He's more of a hybrid kind of guy. He can go sideline to sideline, it looks like. 72 tackle. You know, Sonny Gallen is probably the top 4-star that I like on the table currently. Next up, we're going to the secondary again. You got corner Jeff Rubin from High Point Christian Academy. They call it HCPA in High Point, North Carolina. He is a corner, a 4-star, and we're in his top 3. And he's actually got a visit this week as we're competing against Virginia Tech and NC State for him. You know, you want to take a look at his skill set. 81 zone, 73 man. We play a lot more zone than man coverage, so I'm very happy that it's that high at zone. 91 change of direction, 75 press. You know, he's got good acceleration sideline to sideline speed, although we don't know his speed. Well, actually, we do know. It's 94, so he's got that ability at 6'2", 190 or 188 as well. So Jeff Rubin is a guy that we are, looks like, out and ahead of. This could be a very good recruiting class for South Carolina if all goes according to plan. Next up, we got Jason Gradkowski, our first guy from the state of South Carolina on the board, and he's actually in our backyard in Spring Valley High School in Columbia, South Carolina. However, we're currently losing out on him to Clemson. They're trying to sneak into our turf and take one of our guys, a pass coverage linebacker who I really like. I might honestly have him rated above Rubin and Gallen. The board changes all the time, so he actually might be my top 4-star recruit on the table. We also got to compete with Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Nebraska. We need to get him in for a visit. We need to get him in for a visit ASAP because 78 speed or zone coverage, 91 speed for a linebacker, especially when we play a 3-3-5 scheme. That would fit right into our defense right here in Columbia. You know, I'd like to say we can't afford to lose him, but it's going to be hard. Hopefully we can just be in there at the end. Then we get into the offensive side of the ball, or actually first offensive guy we have on the board. It's a 4-star receiver from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He attends Socastee High School, 6'3", 196. It's Chance Clements, who only has one offer on the table, and it's from us. So this looks like, I mean, it should be a done deal. 96 speed, 79 deep route. He's a guy who could take the top off the defense. And if you saw what we did with Nick Harbor in that LSU game, this is a guy who could go right there with them. And between Harbor and Brown already on the team, if we had a guy like Chance Clements, I mean, we could be running a track meet on the sideline. So that is the kind of player that Chance Clements is. And then we get into the offensive line, which I do think needs some work. We saw Akron get 4 sacks against us. How about 4-star left guard John Roundtree from Abbeville High School in Abbeville, South Carolina, 6'4", 282. Also the only team to offer him a scholarship. I'm so used to saying contract in pros. And that's kind of the reason why I have him and Clements not as much in the ours because, I mean, we're the only guy really offering right now. And, I mean, that could backfire, I know, because what if these other teams offered him a scholarship? They'd probably jump right into the race. And maybe we should just take advantage and lock some of these guys up. But, we'll see how it goes. We're still fiddling around with the system. But he's a 4-star gem. I mean, look at those ratings. I mean, he's got almost all 80s in his blocking stats, 76 for pass block finesse, but he could be a day one starter right out of the rip. Then we go into the other guard spot, Moses Trinidad from Anderson, South Carolina, as we start to stay more in state, currently attending T.L. Hanna, as he is the third best right guard in the country, and he's currently debating between us, Clemson, and North Carolina has also got an offer for him. Anderson is a little bit more in the upstate, so that is a little bit more closer to Clemson's area, neck of the woods. He is a great pass blocker. I mean, look at those pass block stats, 78, 81, 85. I think I do like him more than Roundtree, which is why we're going 50 on the table for him. Might have to increase that to that 60 limit. But, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, a lot of these battles are going to come down to us and Clemson. We'll see who wins that one. Brady Townsville now, the cornerback, back to the defensive side of the football from South Point High School. Not the same South Point that Sonny Gallen is from. He's from Rock Hill, South Carolina. He's currently leaning towards Virginia Tech. Also has an offer from Tennessee on the table. Another guy who's got great zone coverage. Reminds me of Jeff Rubin. You can't get them all, but, we are a very zone-heavy team, so I do like these kind of corners. And that will take us next to Sean Hager, our first actual bust, so to speak, which, I mean, that's, not really a bad thing all the time. He's from Little River, South Carolina, which is a really small town. He's actually been homeschooled for his career, so he's a very interesting prospect, and I think maybe that's why we're the only team that's got an offer on the table, is because a lot of people don't know what to expect from him. Now, even though he is a bust, he still has 82 block shed, so maybe he's not a 3-down lineman, but he definitely could help in the run game. A little bit slower, his agility is a little bit questionable, but I still think he's a good prospect, despite his, different background, so to speak, and his bust potential. I still do like Sean Hager. A guy that I really do like is a halfback, Sam Ika. He's a power back from Memphis, Tennessee, Woodale High School, which is the same high school, if you're curious, that former NFL defensive tackle Dontari Poe went to. You've seen what we've been able to do with Raheem Sanders this year in the backfield, and I do like Sam Ika because Sanders is a senior this year, and, well, he is going to not be on the team next year, so we need to find a guy who can potentially replace him. Ironically enough, one of the teams we're battling for Ika is Arkansas, which is who we got Sanders from. Him and Kentucky. He did have our visit. It seems like it went okay, but he's a guy who's got pretty decent speed, 85 break tackle. He's going to truck you with that 231-pound frame. We're in the mix. I thought about maybe decreasing the points a little bit with him. I think we got some other needs, but I do like Sam Ika a lot. Then we get into the offensive line again at center, Mustafa Ororo, who's not related to former Clemson Tiger, who also has the same last name, ironically enough. He's from Greensboro, North Carolina, Ragsdale High School, 6'1", 293, an agile guy. Another guy who's labeled as a bust, but, I mean, I still do like. I was willing to give him the scholarship. I mean, he's got 80s in the pass block categories besides the domestic 72 pass block. So he's a guy who's going to get you more out in space. We do run a lot more zone run scheme, and I think that's kind of where he would fit in. Yes, the pass blocking would be a little bit of an issue up the middle, but, maybe he doesn't have to start right away. But for the kind of scheme we do run on offense, I do like what I see out of Roro. Ty Lamb is another 4-star recruit. I told you we're going after a lot of 4-star recruits, and he honestly could be accepting any day now. From Loganville High School in Loganville, Georgia, 6'2", 195. He is more of a man corner. Like I've said, that's not necessarily our wheelhouse. This is 77. We don't know his zone, which is a little scary, but he's got 74 catching and 75 press. So he's a guy who could play on the outside. 13th best in the country at his position. I don't think his zone is probably all that bad, considering he is a 4-star recruit. And anytime he can beef up the secondary, that's always a plus. So expect Ty Lamb to potentially be heading his way to Columbia. I tied in at Jason Beckett, another gem that we found from Warrenton High School in Warrenton, North Carolina. He's the 4th best tight end. He is, though, more of a blocking tight end, which is different. He's got those skills, and they're honestly a little low, so that's why I'm not as high necessarily on him, but he does have that gem ability, or not ability, but that gem next to his name, which is very intriguing. So I did give him the scholarship. Then we get into Marvin McGee. He's the last 4-star, or actually, no, excuse me, he's the first 3-star. I have the line in my notes on the wrong section. He's the first 3-star of the bunch, as a lot of these guys will be from in-state. Conway High School in Conway, South Carolina. It's in the backyard of Coastal Carolina, and they don't really seem to be interested in him. We're currently competing against Appalachian State and Virginia Tech, but it looks like App State is the team making the move. But he's more of a receiving halfback, and you've seen this year we've gotten a lot of work from the backfield from our halfbacks, and I think Marvin McGee could fit into that role. 92 speed, 75 short. I'm not asking him to run super deep routes down the field. I just really want to be able to catch the football and, maybe make somebody miss in space. So I think that is a good spot for him. Donovan Hillhouse, another tackle from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He goes to North Myrtle Beach High School, so not the same as Chance Clements. And this is a guy that it looks like Coastal Carolina is very much wanting to keep in their backyard. And you can see his deal breaker, one of the few deal breakers we know, is proximity to home. And there's no FBS college closer to home than Coastal Carolina. And they've overtaken us. They've given him the offer. And it seems like he might be heading that way, which is a shame because he is a gem. I mean, look at those pass blocking ratings. Like I said, we could use some help in the pass blocking game, and Donovan Hillhouse would have been a great addition. But I have a feeling he could be going to the Chanticleers. So, in other words, we have another right tackle there. How about Jamie Johns? I like to call him Jimmy Johns. He is a guy that we are also fighting Coastal Carolina for, but we have a better lead from this. He also goes to Abbeville High School, so he's actually teammates with his fellow lineman and John Roundtree, who we talked about earlier, the 4-star recruit. So maybe we can get a little bit of a pipeline with Abbeville High School if they start to reproduce some of these linemen that we do like. 6'6", 303, he's a big body guy. He's definitely more of a power guy. His ratings are a little bit lower, but he is that gem with that 89 strength, and I do like seeing that green gem. So Jamie Johns, I feel like, would be a good asset. Staying on the offensive line, because, you got to recruit all of them. You saw how I did in the Washington Commanders franchise. I did not do a good job on my line. Not trying to have that same thing happen here. So we got right guard Trey Ragus from Dillon High School in Dillon, South Carolina. He's currently leaning towards NC State, another pass blocking guy. He's got a visit to the Wolfpack. I like his ratings as well. He's got pretty solid at pass blocking. 81 strength is a little low, and it looks like his run blocking isn't as good. The only run blocking we know is that 64, but a 3-star lineman nonetheless. On the defensive line, how about Lawrence Gentry from Dutch Fork High School in Irmo, South Carolina? Fun fact, I used to teach for Dutch Fork Middle School, so this one is maybe a little bit of a hometown bias, but he's more of a run stopper at 6'4", 275. It's between us and Wake Forest currently. He's got 85 block shed, another guy who could play, it looks like, on early downs. Not the fastest, despite being 6'4", 275. He's not very quick, but, you can stop the run. That's a position that you can do. Back to the athletes, we got Wayne Watkins, another Columbia guy, goes to Richland Northeast High School at 6'1", 288. He's currently heavily leaning towards us. Coastal's the only other team with an offer, but it seems like they've backed out. It looks like he's more of an offensive lineman. He's got that 88 impact, which seems to really be his strength, no pun intended, considering he has 88 strength as well. Pretty raw on his other abilities, though. Brian Kennedy from North Charleston High School, or Stalls High School, in North Charleston, South Carolina. We're the only team that's got an offer for him, as he's got 83 catching, 74 short, also another little bit of a raw. He's actually a 4-star recruit, so I'm not sure what he's doing all the way down here. I need to move him up. And, hey, we're the only team in the running for him. Another tight end, a 3-star. This is a 3-star tight end from Boiling Springs High School in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. He is a possession guy, another guy who's heavily leaning towards us, so he could be adding a pair of tight ends this year. His route running isn't necessarily the best, but he's got pretty good hands. 79 catching, 77 catching traffic. I don't know his speed, so that concerns me a little bit. But, he's got pretty good hands, and I've said this season the tight end has become our security blanket. So, if he's got good hands, I can trust you. At cornerback, Malik Asante from Sumter, South Carolina. He currently goes to Lakewood High School. We have not actually sent him an offer. He's heavily leaning towards us, so maybe if we just give him the scholarship, he actually might just come to our college. Now, the reason I haven't sent him a scholarship yet is he's kind of not that good, to be honest. 68 man. He's got 59 awareness, only 88 speed. I honestly am surprised he doesn't have the bus next to his name, but maybe I should just offer him the scholarship and just add another guy to our group, because it never hurts to have these guys in your class. Matt Cockrell, an athlete. He's a guy who we have offered a scholarship to. He goes to J.L. Mann High School in Greenville, South Carolina, and he's an athlete, and he's currently projected as a quarterback. He's got 91 throw power, 88 speed, pretty good accuracies. He's good on the run, so, I mean, hey, I like that skill set, and that's why we're the only team that's offered him a scholarship right now. A lot of these guys, and like I said, I'm only giving 5 points into, so I feel like although we've only got one recruit so far, we could really start to see a lot more of these guys commit, and I'd like to see that happen. We need a punter next year. We got a senior punter, so the guy I'm going after is Taylor Montez. He's the reason why I've given him 35 points. He's from Gulf Coast High School in Naples, Florida. This one seems like a done deal. I mean, he's more of an accurate kicker than he is power, but, I mean, hey, I just need a punter. Deshaun Heap is a guy that I kind of found later in our backyard, and he's got a gym, so obviously we'd like to keep him around. He goes to Dreher High School in Columbia, South Carolina. He's also raw, despite the gym ability. 68 man, 65 zone, 89 speed. He's got good change of direction. So he's a guy that'll probably sit on the bench for a little bit, but another 3-star recruit. That's the only offers from us. Athlete Josh McDaniel, funny enough, from Chester, South Carolina. He currently goes to Chester High School. He's more of a bust kind of player, which is kind of the reason why we've fallen out of this. We haven't, a lot of the rest of the guys we haven't given any points to, and it seems that Appalachian State is currently overtaking us. I just have a lot of other good athletes. I mean, those aren't bad ratings. Maybe I'm a little bit being too hard on the guy, but I mean, those are actually not half bad for an athlete. I think he's honestly better than someone like Matt Cockrell, who we just talked about. Demetrius Roberts is a left guard from Thomasville High School in Thomasville, North Carolina. We have given him a scholarship, but again, no points given into. He's a little bit more of a raw kind of guy. Tremaine Billups from Lake Point Academy in York, South Carolina. He's a safety. He's got 74 man that I kind of like. It's between us and Kennesaw State are the only two teams that have given him a scholarship. Then we get into kicker. I mean, we have a freshman kicker, but he's not very good. So I decided to give an offer to Tavon Lampkin from Seneca High School in Seneca, South Carolina. It's between us and Coastal currently. We still haven't actually fully scouted him either, but I do like that 77 kick power. And then we got Chris Cheeseman, a bust of a corner who hasn't got any offers so far, but it looks like he wants to stay in state, from Calhoun County High School in St. Matthews, South Carolina. He's just a little bit slower, but he's got decent hands. Maybe we'll put some more points into him. That's a look at all of our recruits. We went in depth with all 33 guys. That's a lot to go over. Now, these aren't the only recruits in the country as well. There's also what's going on around the nation in terms of the top recruits. So let's take a look at some of the top recruits. We won't go as in depth into these guys. I'll just kind of show you the battles that's going on so far. We'll start off with the 5-star prospects currently. The top recruit in the country right now is Kenyon Kaser. He's a defensive end from Florida. And you can see he's got all the schools in the Southeast going after him. Florida looks like they've overtaken Georgia for him. Miami, Florida State. Obviously, I'd love to see him go to the ACC, but it looks like he's going to stay in the SEC, and that's part of the reason why I picked South Carolina is we're going to have to play a lot of these top recruits. The second guy, the number one on offense, is halfback Derek Stevenson from Washington and Maryland, so the DMV area. Looks like he's starting to narrow down his schools. Michigan is currently the front runner. I mean, why not? They just won the Natty, and they're known for their halfbacks. A couple of wide receivers here. Trayvon Grimes from Deerfield, Florida. It looks like he's going to go to Miami. And we got Connor Hamrick as well from Chicago. TCU actually just overtook Illinois. The Fighting Illini do not want him to leave the state, but the Horned Frogs are giving a run for their money. An athlete in Rafael Zambrano. He's from Florida, and it looks like he's got Miami currently leading the way. The sixth position, there is Ted Martino from Alabama, and it looks like Ole Miss is currently in the running for that wide receiver. Trey Jewell is a guy who's actually kind of wide open right now. He hasn't really locked anybody out. He's heavily leaning towards Nebraska, though, and I expect that to be the case. Then we get to the quarterback, the first quarterback, actually second if you include an athlete, but the first quarterback on the docket is Josh Jasmine from North Palm Beach, Florida. Miami's currently out in front, but there's still a lot of movement there, so that battle is still wide open. And then Kenyon Florence, a cornerback, is leaning towards Alabama and Oklahoma. Stephon Keaton currently looks like a Bulldog. And then we won't go through all of them. We'll just go through a couple more. Caleb Aldridge from Virginia is leaning towards Florida State and Oklahoma. Deion Kiki, a corner, has got his in his top 5. Looks like maybe SEC bound. So there's a lot of guys on the table in terms of talent, and they could be playing in our conference. If you want to take a look at the top classes, currently Georgia is out in front. No shock there. They got a 5-star already in wide receiver Elmore, 6'6" body, and they got 7 4-star recruits. So Georgia's way out in front. Miami's currently putting together a pretty solid class. They've got a 5-star recruit in the left tackle Fontaine, and we've seen them in battle so far. Ohio State, Washington, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Penn State, a lot of the top teams you'd expect close to the top. Like I said, we've only got 1 recruit, so if you look in the SEC, I mean, we are towards the bottom, but hopefully we can change that. Florida actually hasn't got anybody yet, so it's still all up in the air. It's still early. We'll take more of a look at these battles every single week to see what happens and potentially go through each battle. But we'll end the episode by going through the final scores of week 5. So let me go ahead and simulate the week, and maybe even a recruit will commit. And just as I say that, it comes through the pipeline. 4-star corner Jeff Rubin from High Point Christian Academy is a South Carolina Gamecock. We saw him towards the top of our 4-star list. He's a gem. He is heading to the Garnet in Black. I'm so excited for that one. As you can see, he has committed to our school. Unfortunately, we got some bad news, it looks like, at the bottom. Whoops. Excuse me. We'll go back real quick. I don't want to look at the recruiting update. But Sam Ika, the halfback that I did like, he did commit to Kentucky. So he will stay in the SEC. A lot of other guys, top 3 schools. We made it for Trey Ragus. He's leaning, though, heavily towards NC State now. Zambrano, the other 5-star recruit, he's narrowed his down to his top 3. We've made it. It looks like it's us in Florida. We got some catching up to do. Gradkowski is heavily leaning towards Clemson. Donovan Hillhouse is taken towards the coast of Carolina a lot more. And Trey Ragus, we talked about. We still got a lot of number 1s for these guys who are narrowing down their schools. So still plenty of time. But I do like how we've added another recruit in Jeff Rubin. Here are top stories around the week 6. It looks like Utah defeated Arizona 54-52 in overtime. That is a heck of a battle in the Big 12 now. The Fighting Illini pull off the offset. They beat Penn State. No way. So looks like Penn State went down. Sometimes these are a little fishy, but we'll have to take a look at that. Michigan survives a scare against Minnesota 31-30 as they stay undefeated. And it looks like the big matchup this week is Missouri versus Texas A&M. But let's take a look at the scores around week 5. We'll go through all of the nationally televised games. Starting off with Miami destroying Virginia Tech 52-34. That was a highlight game last week. It didn't really turn into one. Purdue knocks off Nebraska in a blowout 52-10. Good Lord, starting off with a lot of high scores. Texas beats Mississippi State. They get their first SEC win. Maryland beats Indiana. Maryland's still undefeated. They're ranked 19th, so don't sleep on the Terps. Ohio State takes care of business against Michigan State. Wake Forest knocks off Louisiana at home. And Rice will knock off Charlotte in what is now an AAC battle. Rice is still undefeated. Give them some respect. South Florida takes out the Green Wave. East Carolina knocks off UTSA. Kansas, they bounce back with a win over TCU. We see Texas A&M knock off Arkansas 31-20 in the Southwest Classic. Liberty knocks off Appalachian State, first loss for the Mountaineers. Western Kentucky beats Boston College, a little bit of an upset. They knock off the ACC school. Texas State wins the rivalry against Sam Houston State by a high score. NC State stays undefeated. They're now a top 10 school. They knock off Northern Illinois. Cincinnati knocks off Texas Tech. Iowa State over Houston. Oklahoma State beats Kansas State. They're still undefeated. They're a top 10 program. Central Michigan knocks off San Diego State. Ball State, one of the worst teams a lot of people thought this year. They're 500. They beat James Madison. Notre Dame is victorious over Louisville. Michigan, we saw that score. Rutgers, they're now ranked. Don't sleep on the Scarlet Knights. They knock off Washington. I love to see that. I know FG does too. Alabama goes down the hotly anticipated game. It was the game of the week, and Georgia beats the Crimson Tide 24-20. Georgia still the team to beat. Kirby Smart gets another one over Alabama, as they, though, are still a top 10 school, so still a lot on the line. Those teams definitely could meet again. Yes, Illinois does beat Penn State 37-20, so Penn State takes a big hit. Remember, there are 12 teams this year in the playoffs, so just because you lose once doesn't mean you're out yet. Clemson finally gets a win. They beat Stanford. It took a long time for the Tigers to get on the board, but they do against Stanford. Navy knocks off UAB. North Texas over Tulsa. Wyoming beats Air Force in a point differential in the Mountain West. Troy over Louisiana Monroe in a beatdown. Colorado gets it done on the road against Central Florida. They stay undefeated in Big 12 play. LSU knocks off South Alabama. We still should have beat LSU. A little bit later now, Baylor over BYU. Memphis takes out Middle Tennessee State. SMU over Florida State. So again, the Seminoles lose a conference game, and it looks like their season is probably cooked at this point. Kentucky knocks off Ole Miss, so the Rebels go down again. As Kentucky, they're bounced back pretty well after our loss to us. North Carolina gets the victory over Duke in that rivalry. Oregon over UCLA, Oregon's first win in the Big Ten. Oklahoma is victorious over Auburn. New Mexico over New Mexico State in that Rio Grande rivalry. UNLV over Fresno State, and there's the high-scoring battle we saw, 106 points. USC over Wisconsin, and finally Boise State over Washington State. So we'll wrap up the episode by looking at the top 25. Obviously, there's going to be some movement here with some of the losses, but the top three all stay the same. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon is 3, Michigan now moves up to 4, Oklahoma is now your 5, Oklahoma State the 6. So when they battle, it's going to be a big one. Texas A&M is 7, Alabama goes from 4 to 8, NC State in the top 10, as well as Utah now. Notre Dame is 11, LSU 12, Miami up to 13. Arizona drops 4 thanks to their close loss. 15 is Penn State. Texas, despite being 3-2, is 16. 17 is Missouri. 18 the Trojans. Maryland back to 19. 20 Kansas. Rutgers ranked at 21. Iowa also enters. They're 22. Ole Miss to 23. Kansas 24. Kansas State, excuse me. And Tennessee is rounding it out. Teams that fell out were Nebraska, Texas Tech, and Louisville. And we'll finally wrap this up by taking a look at our game this week. Ole Miss on the docket. This is where that gauntlet begins for us. Ole Miss was a preseason top 10. They're still a ranked team. But if you look at our schedule coming up, this is where it gets tough. We got Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M on our next 4 games. I'd love to take one of those 4. It's not going to be easy at all. But if we want to become bowl eligible, yes, we're 3-1, but it could quickly go downhill. As we'll take a look real quick at the team for Ole Miss. Obviously, they're coming off of a couple of losses, but they're still a top team, led by Jackson Dart at quarterback. They got a very talented offense. Also, Antoine Wells, I usually don't highlight certain players, but he's a guy, he's known as Juice Wells. He was with us last year. He transferred to Ole Miss, so we want some revenge against him, but it's not going to be easy. This is a good offensive line. They got a pretty stout defensive line as well. It's going to be hard to run against them. I do think they're a little weak on the linebacker core and in the secondary, so maybe we can pick on that a little bit. Sellers has been throwing the football well, so maybe that's the area we exploit, but it's going to be a tough one. Defense has got to step up as we look to get a victory over the Rebels. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it went longer, but we went into every single recruit, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you drop that like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.